You ever get that feeling? You know, that kind of low-grade hum of anxiety that our whole economic system is stretched just a little too thin, like a rubber band about to snap? Well, it turns out there's a hidden pattern to it all, an ancient rhythm that connects the fall of empires to the financial news we're seeing today. And believe it or not, it all goes back to a law written 3,000 years ago.
So, what if that's true? What if a 3,000-year-old piece of scripture held the blueprint not just for, a fair society, but for a stable one? A blueprint that, when we ignore it, leads to this shockingly predictable pattern of collapse, a pattern that just keeps echoing through history, right up to this very moment. To really understand this pattern, we've got to go back, way back to the beginning. See, the biblical story isn't just about faith. It's also a really profound economic story that frames our entire relationship with money, with resources, and with each other. The whole story follows this really clear arc. It kicks off in Eden, right? A place of pure abundance, where everything is provided. Then you have the fall, which introduces struggle, anxiety, and the very idea that there's not enough to go around, scarcity. So in response, you get the Torah, the law. And it's not just a random list of rules. It's a set of guardrails, an instruction manual designed specifically to manage a world of scarcity and stop it from spinning out of control.
And at the absolute heart of those guardrails was this truly radical, kind of mind-blowing idea called the Jubilee. Just imagine this, a law that forces society to hit a giant reset button every 50 years. All debts, gone, wiped clean. All land goes back to its original family. Anyone trapped in debt servitude is immediately set free. It was basically a built-in pressure release valve, designed to stop wealth and power from getting so concentrated in a few hands that the whole system breaks down.
So a 50-year reset cycle. I know, it sounds like some ancient, maybe irrelevant idea, right? Well, this is where things get really fascinating, because that same 50-year rhythm, it pops up again and again and again all throughout modern history.
Fast forward to today, and you have famed investor Ray Dalio. He analyzed centuries of economic data, and you know what? He came to an almost identical conclusion. He found that these big, long-term debt cycles tend to run for about 50 to 75 years. Debt just builds and builds until it hits a breaking point. And at that point, you will get a reset. And if that reset isn't planned and orderly, it gets chaotic and incredibly destructive.
And history gives us some pretty brutal examples of this. Look at pre-revolutionary France. They didn't have a jubilee. What did they get? A violent revolution. Weimar Germany. No orderly reset. What happened? Hyperinflation that completely wiped out the middle class and led to total political collapse. Heck, even in 2008, we chose targeted bailouts instead of broad debt relief. And that led straight to a deep recession and the massive social divides we're still dealing with today. The pattern is crystal clear. You either choose to have a reset, or a reset will be chosen for you.
So, that brings us to the big, flashing question. Where are we in the cycle right now? Well, if you look at the data, all the warning signs are there. The pressure is definitely building. First, just look at the sheer scale of the debt. It's staggering. When you add up everything, federal, corporate, household debt, we're talking over $100 trillion. I mean, it's a number so huge your brain can't even really process it. But that's not even the most dangerous part. The real danger isn't just the total amount, it's the ratio. Our debt is now at 122% of our GDP. To put that simply, we owe way more than our entire economy produces in a single year. And historically, that is pushing us right up against the red line, where really big crises tend to happen. And at the exact same time, this gigantic mountain of debt is happening alongside extreme wealth concentration. A truly shocking 93% of all assets, stocks, real estate, you name it, are owned by just the top 10% of people. So think about what that means. The vast majority of people are shouldering the risk from all this debt, but they have almost none of the wealth to cushion them for what could be coming. And this is how that chaotic reset usually begins. It doesn't start with a big announcement. It starts with what Tom Bilyeu calls a soft default. It happens through inflation. The government prints more money to pay its debts, and that makes the money in your pocket worth less. This isn't just a theory, it's happening. Your dollar has already lost about 25% of its buying power in just the last 5 years. It's like an invisible tax that just steals from savers and anyone on a fixed income.
So this all brings us to a really stark choice. We are at the peak of the cycle, and there are really only two ways down from this mountain of debt we've built.
On one side, you have the orderly reset. You can think of it as a modern jubilee. It's planned, it's transparent, and its main goal is to preserve social stability by actually fixing the root problem. Then you have the other side, the chaotic reset.
This is hyperinflation, default, social breakdown. This path destroys savings, it shatters trust, and as history shows us over and over, it can be violent and totally unpredictable.
Now, look, facing a problem this big can feel completely overwhelming. I get it. But what if the way forward doesn't start with some new government policy, but with a new mindset? A really fundamental shift in how we see the world and our place in it.
So much of the mess we're in is driven by a scarcity mindset. This is the belief that there's a fixed pie of resources, and the only way for me to get ahead is to fight you for a bigger slice. The alternative is an abundance mindset. This mindset doesn't see a pie that needs to be divided, it sees seeds that can be planted. It assumes that value isn't fixed, it can actually be created and multiplied if we work together.
And this isn't just some vague, feel-good philosophy. There's a practical playbook for it. Instead of just a one-time transaction, can you teach someone a skill that multiplies knowledge? Instead of a closed, proprietary system, can you create a standard that other people can build on top of? Instead of just one single project, can you build a platform that allows countless others to create their own value? All of these are ways to turn finite slices into generative seeds.
And that brings us to one final question I want to leave you with. Think about any problem you're facing, whether it's personal or something bigger in society, something that feels like a zero-sum fight. Then ask yourself this: what, if it were multiplied here, would make fighting over it completely unnecessary? Finding the answer to that question, well, that might just be the first step out of this entire cycle.